Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into uh, a topic that really touches every single one of us, whether we realize it or not. Global catastrophe scenarios. We've gone through a pretty comprehensive stack of sources, articles, research papers, expert opinions, to really get a handle on what these scenarios are, how they might unfold, and what the latest thinking is on likelihood and impact.
That's right. And our mission today really is to cut through some of the noise, help you sift through the just vast amount of information out there about potential large-scale harms, to humanity, to the planet. We'll try to identify the most significant threats, maybe categorize them a bit, and give you the key insights and honestly some surprising facts you need to feel genuinely well-informed, not just, well, overwhelmed by it all.
Okay, let's unpack this then. When we talk about global catastrophe scenarios, what are we actually looking at? We're focusing on events or conditions that could create, widespread severe harm. And that ranges from temporary societal disruption, economic chaos, all the way to, frankly, human extinction. It's a sobering thought, definitely. But it's also kind of fascinating to remember that lots of societal collapses have already happened throughout history. Gives us a bit of a lens on vulnerability, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A historical perspective is important.
So our sources, they pretty clearly categorize these risks into two main buckets. You've got anthropogenic,
Meaning human-caused.
right, originating from human actions,
Yeah.
and then non-anthropogenic.
The natural stuff, earthquakes, volcanoes, asteroids.
Exactly.
And what immediately jumps out, looking at the sources, is that the leading experts, people at places like the Future of Humanity Institute at Oxford or the Center for the Study of Existential Risk at Cambridge, they actually prioritize the anthropogenic risks. They estimate these human-caused threats have a much greater likelihood, especially the ones stemming from advanced tech, like artificial intelligence and biotechnology.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it really makes you pause and ask, why are our own actions seen as potentially more potent threats than nature's biggest punches?
That's a great question, and it really sets the stage, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's start digging into those human-created dangers then. First up, artificial intelligence, AI.
The big one.
Yeah. And the core concern here, it isn't just like sci-fi malicious robots taking over. It's actually more subtle. Our sources highlight that creators could maybe inadvertently give us superintelligent AI goals that, when it pursues them relentlessly, it ends up wiping us out. Or it could just outcompete us for resources, for dominance.
Right. Nick Bostrom calls this the control problem.
Exactly, the control problem. It's this fundamental challenge of making sure a superintelligent AI works in our best interest, even if its own goals have nothing to do with us.
Even if it's indifferent.
Precisely. And a different AI could still be incredibly dangerous if it just sees humans as, like, an obstacle to its unrelated goals.
And you've had major figures worrying about this. Stephen Hawking, Bill Gates, Elon Musk.
Yeah, Hawking
Yeah.
famously theorized an AI like that could spell the end of the human race.
Yeah, pretty stark warning. If we zoom out a bit, look at the broader picture. Back in 2009, the Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence, the AAAI,
Okay.
they held a conference discussing how even current robots could get semi-autonomy, finding their own power, choosing targets. And some computer viruses already show what's been called cockroach intelligence. They just adapt and survive really well.
Huh. Cockroach intelligence.
Yeah. So while that self-aware, evil AI might be less likely, according to many experts, the hazards of an unaligned or uncontrolled AI, that seems very real. There was a survey, Future of Humanity Institute again, back in 2008. They estimated something like a 5% probability of extinction just from superintelligence by 2100.
5%, that's not insignificant.
Not at all. And Eliezer Yudkowsky points out something interesting. Our human tendency towards anthropomorphism.
Projecting human traits onto things.
Exactly. It biases our judgment.
Yeah.
It makes us dramatically underestimate how powerful and frankly alien an AI's thinking could be. Its potential unpredictability.
It's a sobering thought, yeah, that our own creations could pose such a unique kind of challenge. Okay, moving on. Biotechnology. This also presents some truly fascinating and maybe alarming risks.
Definitely.
We're talking here about bioengineered organisms, viruses, bacteria, fungi, even plants or animals, potentially. Things that could act as pathogens to us, or our livestock, our crops,
Yep.
or just mess up entire ecosystems.
And these catastrophes, they could happen accidentally, maybe an unexpected interaction after someone releases something intentionally, or it could be deliberate. biological warfare, bioterrorism. A striking real-world example in the sources. A group of Australian researchers,
Oh, yeah.
they were trying to develop a virus to sterilize rodents, like a pest control thing, but they unintentionally made a mousepox virus super lethal, killed even vaccinated mice.
Wow. Just accidentally.
Accidentally. And just last December 2024, a whole coalition of scientists warned against creating something called mirror life.
Mirror life. What's that?
It's like synthetic life built from totally different biochemical blocks than ours. Their worry is, if it escaped the lab, it would have no natural predators, and it could compete with existing life for nutrients. And totally unpredictable ecological threat.
Okay, that sounds risky.
Right. And the sources really highlight how biological weapons are different from, say, nuclear or chemical ones.
How so?
Well, they're comparatively easier to make, easier to mass produce, and much, much harder to control once released. The capabilities are becoming accessible even to individuals or small groups, not just states.
That's chilling.
The Future of Humanity Institute, again, they estimated a 2% probability of extinction just from engineered pandemics by 2100.
2%. So AI, 5%, engineered pandemics, 2%. These aren't huge numbers, but they're not zero either.
Exactly. They're considered plausible enough to be taken very seriously.
So what about mitigation? What can be done?
Well, the proposals include things like regulating dangerous research, especially gain-of-function studies that make pathogens more potent, also dramatically improving global systems for spotting outbreaks early, and developing facilities for rapid mitigation, better vaccines, more widely distributed, faster production. It's basically a technological race against potential invisible threats.
Makes sense. Okay, our next big human-caused risk, climate change. This is one everyone's heard about.
Right.
Driven by our technology, our industry, really since the 19th century at least. And the projections, they consistently point towards continued warming, rising sea levels, and a worrying increase in extreme weather events, floods, droughts, superstorms.
And the ripple effects are just huge. Loss of biodiversity, massive stress on food production globally.
Right, agriculture.
Spread of infectious diseases into new areas as climates shift. Amplified human migration, potential conflict over resources like water, all potentially leading to widespread social breakdown in vulnerable regions.
The scale of the threat described in the sources is, well, it's compelling. Take this. November 2017, over 15,000 scientists signed a World Scientist Warning to Humanity.
15,000.
Yeah. And they basically said, look, increasing greenhouse gases, unchecked population growth, deforestation, overuse of land. It all points towards a dramatic increase in human misery. That was their word, misery.
And there was a Lancet report, October 2017. It linked to toxic air, water, soil, workplaces, to a staggering 9 million deaths in just 2015.
9 million.
9 million. And it warned the pollution crisis threatens the continuing survival of human societies.
Some have gone even further. Carl Sagan, for instance, raised the possibility that unchecked climate change could even cause total human extinction, turning Earth into, like, an uninhabitable Venus.
That's the extreme end of the spectrum.
But it's important our sources also provide nuance here, which is crucial, right, for a balanced view. Vox's Kelsey Piper, for example, she points out that even the most pessimistic IPCC scenarios, that's the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they still predict temperatures where humans could survive somewhere on the planet. Maybe not comfortably, maybe not everywhere, but survival is possible.
Right. And factcheck.org back in 2020, they looked into this specifically. They concluded climate change, while undeniably a huge and devastating threat, doesn't really pose an existential risk in the sense of wiping out all people.
Okay, so profound disruption, immense suffering, maybe societal collapse in places, but not necessarily total human extinction, according to those analyses.
That seems to be the distinction they're making. Still incredibly serious, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond AI, biotech, and climate, the sources highlight a whole bunch of other human-caused dangers. Some are subtle, some are really direct, worth looking at. Let's start with cyber attacks. Christine Peterson, she's mentioned arguing that a coordinated attack on electric grids could be catastrophic.
Yeah, the grid seems like a major vulnerability. Everything depends on it.
Right. And her point is they're increasingly vulnerable. And maybe not enough has been done to really harden them against attack nationally. Imagine huge areas just plunged into darkness. Communications go down, supply chains.
Cascading failures. It's easy to imagine how bad that could get quickly.
And related to that, you have environmental disasters driven by human activity, not just climate, but things like world crop failure, ecosystem collapse.
Driven by overpopulation, unsustainable development, bad farming practices.
Yeah. Specific things mentioned are water scarcity, huge issue looming, pollinator decline, like the honeybee colony collapse disorder.
Which is vital for our food supply.
Totally. Overfishing, emptying the oceans, deforestation. There was a scientific reports analysis in May 2020 warning that if we continue current rates of deforestation and resource use, we could see a catastrophic collapse in human population.
Wow.
And possibly, they said, an irreversible collapse of our civilization within just decades. Strong words.
Very strong. It paints a grim picture if things don't change.
Then there's a more speculative idea.
Mm-hmm.
Post-human evolution.
Ah, right. Genetic engineering.
Yeah, scenarios where advanced genetic engineering leads to new post-human species, and they just outcompete us, drive the old humans to extinction, like natural selection, but, self-directed.
It's a fascinating, slightly unsettling thought.
And another debated risk, the experimental accident. Nick Bostrom, again, suggesting humanity might just accidentally create something truly destructive, destroying Earth, maybe even the solar system, just by trying to learn stuff.
Like the old worries about nuclear tests setting the atmosphere on fire or particle colliders making black holes.
Exactly. Those proved unfounded. But the general concern about unforeseen consequences from really powerful new experiments, it persists. It's the unknown unknowns.
The frontiers of science having potential dangers we can't even conceive of yet.
Right. And then there's mineral resource exhaustion. Some economists, like George Rogan and Herman Daly, they argue Earth's finite resources mean its carrying capacity has to decrease eventually, leading to an inevitable collapse of civilization as we know it.
The limits to growth argument, essentially.
Pretty much. What about nanotechnology?
Ah, nano. Well, the idea of molecular manufacturing, building things atom by atom, it could allow for incredibly cheap mass production of advanced weapons. The risks there include things like arms races because the barrier to entry would be really low. Easy to hide these tiny weapons, less dependence on international trade, which currently acts as a bit of a brake.
What about the gray goo scenario? Self-replicating nanobots eating everything.
Yeah, that was the classic fear. But experts, including Eric Drexler, who pioneered many of these ideas, now largely discredit that as an accidental outcome. They see it as something that would require deliberate, complex engineering, not just a simple accident. So less likely, perhaps, than other nano-related risks like weaponry.
Okay, that's somewhat reassuring. But of course, we can't talk global catastrophes without talking nuclear war.
Still the elephant in the room, in many ways.
Yeah. A full-scale war could lead to just unprecedented death tolls, habitat destruction, potentially triggering a nuclear winter.
Right, the dust and soot blocking sunlight, causing global cooling and famine.
Experts generally think total human extinction from nuclear war is unlikely. But a big exchange, say U.S.-Russia, could still kill over 5 billion people, mostly from starvation afterwards.
5 billion, that's almost incomprehensible.
Martin Hellman argues that even if the annual probability is tiny, it becomes almost inevitable over the long run unless that probability gets driven down close to zero.
Because you just keep rolling the dice year after year.
Exactly. And remember, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK himself apparently estimated the odds of nuclear war then at somewhere between 1 out of 3 and even. Terrifyingly high.
And we still have, what, around 15,700 nuclear weapons in the world today?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay.
Still a massive arsenal.
Okay, another big one. World population and the linked agricultural crisis.
Yeah, the Global Footprint Network says humanity uses resources about twice as fast as they can regenerate.
Living on borrowed time, resource-wise.
And experts like David Penuntel suggest that for a truly sustainable economy, the U.S. population might need to shrink by 1/3, world population by 2/3. Huge changes.
That's controversial, obviously, but it highlights the scale of the challenge.
And some projections point to a critical agricultural crisis after 2050, mainly because modern farming is so dependent on fossil fuels, which could lead to mass starvation.
Plus specific threats to crops like new diseases.
Right, like that UG99 wheat stem rust fungus, which could cause 100% crop losses in affected areas.
And underlying all this, the sources repeatedly mention the idea that human activity has triggered a 6th mass extinction event. We're losing biodiversity at an alarming rate, which fundamentally threatens the ecological systems that support civilization.
So that's a pretty grim tour of the human-caused risks.
It is. But it's not just us, right? Nature has plenty of ways to shake things up, too.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. 99% of all species that have ever lived are extinct now.
Wow, 99%.
Yeah. And Earth has gone through numerous mass extinction events already. The one that killed the dinosaurs is just the most famous.
So what are the big natural threats the sources highlight?
Well, the classic one is an asteroid impact. A big enough hit could cause widespread destruction, maybe even human extinction.
Like the Chicxulub asteroid, the dinosaur killer, about 10 kilometers across.
That's the one. And while there aren't any known Earth-crossing asteroids that big right now, a large comet could appear with much less warning. They're harder to track.
And how big would it need to be truly catastrophic for humans?
Geoscientist Brian Toon estimated that a 100-kilometer meteorite would be large enough to, quote, incinerate everybody.
Incinerate everybody. That's direct.
Yeah. And what's really striking, there was a 2018 report from the B612 Foundation. They focus on asteroid defense. They stated, it's 100% certain we'll be hit by a devastating asteroid, but we're not 100% sure when.
100% certain. Wow.
Even Stephen Hawking, in his last book, considered an asteroid collision the biggest threat. And adding to that, the U.S. National Science and Technology Council warned in 2018 that America is basically unprepared. NASA would need at least 5 years just to launch an intercept mission after identifying a threat.
5 years lead time needed, minimum. That doesn't leave much room for error if we spot something late.
Not much at all.
Oh.
Okay, moving further out. Cosmic threats.
Like what?
Planetary collisions.
Yeah.
Simulations back in 2008 actually showed a 1% chance that Mercury's orbit could destabilize.
Mercury, our neighbor.
Yeah, potentially leading to it colliding with Earth sometime in the sun's remaining lifespan. Or, theoretically, an interstellar object, like a rogue planet wandering through space, could hit us.
Okay, how bad would a Mercury collision be compared to the dinosaur asteroid?
Way worse. Mercury's almost 5,000 kilometers across. The dinosaur rock was maybe 15 kilometers. A Mercury impact would obliterate all life, period.
Ike. Game over.
Even a close pass by something massive could trigger huge earthquakes, massive tidal forces, maybe even tear Earth apart.
And then there's the really long-term stuff, like galaxies colliding.
Yeah, the Milky Way and Andromeda are set to collide in about 4 billion years. But direct star collisions are unlikely, apparently. Too much empty space. Still, quite the fireworks show.
4 billion years. Okay, we've got some time on that one.
A little bit. But our own sun poses threats, too, closer to home.
Solar flares.
Powerful solar flares, yeah. Or a superstorm, maybe even something called the micronova. Could wreak havoc on our electrical grids, satellites, technology.
And then there's just the sun's natural life cycle.
Exactly. Long term, Earth will become uninhabitable. In about 1 billion years, the sun gets brighter, the oceans evaporate. Even before that, CO2 levels drop too low for plants.
And eventually the sun becomes a red giant.
Yep. In about 7 to 8 billion years, it'll likely expand and swallow Earth entirely. A very definitive end, but, quite far off.
Okay. What other natural risks did the sources bring up?
Some really speculative physics hazards, like strangelets,
Just strange.
theoretical bits of matter from strange stars, or a false vacuum collapse. The big slurp idea.
The big slurp sounds ominous.
It is. The idea is a bubble of a more stable type of vacuum could just appear and expand at light speed, destroying the universe as we know it without any warning. Pure theory, but mind-bending.
Definitely mind-bending. What about things like gamma ray bursts?
Right? From supernovae. If one happened nearby and was aimed right at us, it could strip away our ozone layer, potentially cause mass extinction. It might have happened in Earth's past, causing the Ordovician-Silurian extinctions.
How likely is that now?
Unlikely in the foreseeable future, they say. But if it did happen close enough, say within 200 light years, it could vaporize us.
Okay. Add it to the list. And the ultimate fate of the universe itself.
Uncertain, but probably uninhabitable eventually. Either a slow heat death where everything spreads out and cools, or maybe a big rip where space itself tears apart. Grand scale stuff.
What about aliens? Extraterrestrial invasion, the classic sci-fi trope.
It's in there. Intelligent aliens could theoretically invade to wipe us out, enslave us, take our resources.
But scientists think it's unlikely.
Generally, yes. Considered highly unlikely. Though, interestingly, Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk both argued against actively broadcasting messages into space, precisely because they feared advanced, potentially hostile aliens could pose a threat. Better not to shout into the jungle, basically.
An interesting caution. Okay, bringing it back down to Earth. Natural pandemics.
Always a threat. We've seen it historically. Black Death, smallpox killed millions.
And modern travel makes things spread faster.
Way faster.
Yeah.
Makes containment much harder. Now, usually there's an evolutionary limit. A bug that kills its host too fast doesn't spread well.
Right.
But that doesn't apply if humans are just secondary hosts, or, crucially, if it's a bioengineered pathogen designed to be lethal.
Ah, linking back to the anthropogenic risks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
U.S. officials apparently assess that an engineered pathogen capable of wiping out all humanity is technically feasible.
Feasible. Wow.
But they are confident that intervention would prevent actual extinction.
Let's hope they're right.
Let's hope. What about natural climate change, ice ages and stuff? Yeah, Earth's climate naturally fluctuates. Ice ages, warmer periods, abrupt regional changes have happened. But scientists don't predict a natural ice age anytime soon, partly, ironically, because of the greenhouse gases we've emitted.
So our actions might be preventing a natural cooling while causing an unnatural warming.
Kind of sums it up, yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, one more big natural power, volcanism. Supervolcanoes.
Like Yellowstone.
Yellowstone is the famous example. An eruption like the Toba eruption 71,500 years ago that might have bottlenecked the human population down to maybe tens of thousands could cause a volcanic winter, similar to nuclear winter.
How bad could a Yellowstone eruption be?
A future super eruption could dump ash meters thick across huge parts of the U.S. Midwest, devastate crops, livestock, drop global temperatures maybe 5 to 15 degrees Celsius for a decade, potential starvation for billions.
Billions. Yes.
Fortunately, the sources say Yellowstone shows no signs of an impending super eruption right now, but the potential is definitely there under the ground.
Okay.
So yeah, we've unpacked a truly staggering array of potential global catastrophe scenarios, from our own tech and societal pressures.
Right, the anthropogenic stuff.
To these immense cosmic events and Earth's own powerful natural cycles.
And the central insight, really, that came through from the sources we looked at is just the sheer breadth of these risks. But also that strong consensus among many experts that the human-caused risks.
Especially from advanced tech like AI, biotech.
Exactly. And our impact on the environment, those are often seen as the most immediate and maybe the most likely threats we face right now.
It's a powerful realization, isn't it? That in many ways our future really is in our own hands, for better or worse.
It really is.
So what does all this mean for you listening to this? It's definitely not about, being overwhelmed or living in constant fear.
No, hopefully not.
Quite the opposite, actually. It's about gaining this knowledge, hopefully quickly and thoroughly through this deep dive, and empowering yourself with a deeper understanding the forces that could shape our collective future.
Yeah, understanding these scenarios lets you engage in more informed critical thinking. Question the assumptions you hear. Consider different viewpoints on how we navigate what's coming.
It's about being informed, not just about the dangers, but also about the incredible potential humanity has to understand these things, to adapt and, ultimately address them.
Which really prompts an important question for all of us to think about, doesn't it?
What's that?
In a world where these risks, both natural and human-made, seem like a constant, what new forms of foresight, what new kinds of innovation, and what, maybe most importantly, what new forms of collective action will humanity need to develop to ensure not just survival, but long-term flourishing?
That is a powerful thought to mull over. And it shifts the focus nicely from just threat to potential to action. We really hope this deep dive has given you plenty to think about and maybe even inspired you to, explore some of these fascinating, if sometimes scary, topics further on your own. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.